This is another episode of Stand-Up Comedy, your host and MC, celebrating 40-plus years on the fringe of show business. Stories, interviews, and comedy sets from the famous and not so famous. Here's your host and MC, Scott Edwards.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. Man, I got another fantastic interview for you. This gentleman is definitely a Renaissance man. I'm going to explain his background, and that'll kind of explain that terminology. But let's first welcome him onto the podcast. I did a nice in-depth interview with him a few years ago, but we're doing a little bit of catch-up here. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back on the podcast, Hersh Rephun.
Thank you.
Hersh.
Oh, please. Please.
The crowd's going nuts.
They are. Thank you, Scott, for having me back.
Well, thank you for coming back on the show, and I want to lay the foundation for our audience, and then we'll jump into kind of what you've been up to lately. I titled you a Renaissance man for a very obvious reason. First of all, you were a long-time stand-up comic. You did impressions like Paul Lynde. You had a character called Sunny Swing where you came out in a tux and kind of played with the audience. Then you became a marketing guru, and you had Selling the Truth, a webinar and program that you went around talking to people and became kind of the message therapist. But that wasn't enough. You went into podcasting, and you have the Yes brand and the Truth Taste Funny podcast. You've been doing that for a while, but that wasn't enough. You took it another level, and you became a book author, and you have a book out called Selling the Truth. Ladies and gentlemen, a true Renaissance man. Hersh, you've done so much. It's been really interesting getting to know you and talk about the amazing career you've had. And I want to kind of get an update, but to make it easy for me and the audience, let's take it step by step. You had this amazing character called Sunny Swing. You got into a tux, you went out on stage and you interacted with an audience, did a lot of comedy. You're really good at impressions. Have you done any stage work in the last few years, or is it at all in your future?
I have not been doing stand-up, but I have been doing stages. So, given my evolution, and you somehow neglected, which is hard because you had a whole full list of really significant career stuff, but the movies are not there. But we'll talk about the screenwriting also, which was a part of the crazy adventure, the wild ride. But yeah, I found myself since COVID and being so deep in the podcasting and the interviewing, speaking about personal branding, brand strategy, and brand voice, that the stand-up comedy just didn't feel like the right forum for my self-expression. So I haven't really been doing straight stand-up, but I'm writing a kind of signature keynote now that will combine some of those impressions, combine humor, and just be hopefully a very entertaining and engaging talk, but will really be geared to business audiences and not necessarily, something I would go and do at the Comedy Cellar.
So what you did is you took the knowledge and experience that you learned as a stand-up comic and you mixed it with the research and what you became a marketing guru. And you've been doing these webinars and seminars called Selling the Truth. And you're incorporating some of those impressions and comedy to kind of engage the audience more. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I mean, when appropriate. It's like as I'm writing this stuff, I wasn't planning to do any of them. And then as I was kind of writing out or talking through this talk, I was like, this would be a funny moment for Scarface to come in or whatever it might be and just do it. But I'm not promoting it like it's stand up. It's just going to be my style.
Oh yeah, no, there's plenty of retired or semi-retired comics that went on to other types of work, and they integrate their humor and the comedy to help make it more engaging. I'd hate to put you on the spot, Hersh, but is there an example of an impression that you could share with the audience that kind of talks about your marketing stuff or how you might do that?
What came up for me last night was I used to do a bit called Scarface as a Comedian. And that was a little bit of a meta thing where I would just be Scarface doing that crowd work thing that we do as comics. And he would say, how you guys doing tonight? You having fun? You having some laughs? And I would go into this material. And last night when I was writing this thing, I just was talking about leaders in business who tend to not want to be the center of attention, which is for people in comedy, we don't know about people who don't want to be the center of attention. We don't know those people. But in the business world, in the entrepreneurial world, there are a lot of people who are shy. And it just came out where I was speaking to the audience in my mind, or out loud. And I was saying, you think that you're normal, that you just want to be a normal person. And I said, what do you think that makes you normal? You're not normal. You just know how to hide. And so things like that, where it just kind of comes up. I'm not talking specifically about branding, but anything you do in that character is so antithetical to that character that it's funny. So if I were to say to you, Scott, you know what, you got to work on your personal brand. That's your branding. You don't know how to master your brand. So it's funny because it's not what you would expect him to say.
Right, and you use the Scarface character because it wouldn't quite be as impactful as Paul Lynde.
Right. Paul Lynde. No one would know Paul Lynde. Nobody would remember.
Oh, that's sad though, but true. So when you're doing as a message therapist and you're trying to help your customers and your clients through your webinar and seminar, Selling the Truth, where you're helping them with their marketing and getting their message and to their customers, you're helping companies reach their clients. You're using your stand-up comedy experience and some of your impressions to not only get the message across, but make it a little bit more engaging. I think that's just smart.
Thank you, man. And as well as I do, even if you're dealing, or maybe especially when you're dealing with business or more serious life stuff, the humor cuts the tension, and the humor makes it more digestible. And people know that you're not taking yourself too seriously. And that puts people at ease, because if you are an expert, or if people expect you to be an expert, they might think there's a certain amount of ego involved there, where, you think you know more than other people. And I've always shared information from the student's point of view. We're all students. I learned this. Here's what I'm sharing with you. So the lightness of it is helpful.
Well, as a lifelong entrepreneur, I've both experienced and shared with others that you can never stop learning. And as the teacher, if you go out arrogant and overly self-confident that I am the best, I am the warlord you should listen to, that tends to turn off people. But if you go out and you kind of humanize yourself and bring a little comedy and human connection to it, I think that, as you said, it opens up the audience to your message a little easier and comes across a lot more helpful as opposed to dictatorial. And I think that makes the information you're sharing more absorbing. People can accept it easier and hopefully learn from it. Are you still doing you're still writing them, so I'm imagine you're still doing a lot of the Sell the Truth webinars and seminars?
Well, yeah. So now I have the book. The book is completely new stuff. So anyone who had seen me speak before or who had been a client of mine or whatever it might be, they would not have necessarily heard these stories or insights. They're really pretty much up to the minute of what I've learned, especially the last 5 years since COVID. And so there's a lot about life, a lot about business, and I call it a semoir, a semi-memoir that has stories from my past, but only those that really pertain to life and business as lessons, as selling the truth of being about, the truth is really all we have to sell. A lot of people out there are BS artists and kind of snow people and want to manipulate people. But I think that, this notion of being okay being a salesman is something that took me a long, long time to come to. And I think that's kind of new. That's a little bit new. All that time I was saying selling the truth, but I'm not really owning the salesman part. That I'm selling things. And someone pointed out to me not long ago, they said, look, no one sells anything. People buy things. People buy what they want or what they need, but you're facilitating their being able to benefit from it. And I really like that idea. And I think, a lot of us have the wrong idea about sales and, what it means to perform a service or, provide something that somebody needs.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to learn more about this, look out for Hersh's book, Selling the Truth. You can pick it up on Amazon or go to one of his seminars where I'm sure he's doing the right thing, where he's talking and selling and autographing his book, a great way to make money. But as a lifelong salesman, I will tell you that your friend gave you the exact truth, that it's not about selling something. In fact, I found a lot of success in the ability to listen to people. If you ask the right questions and then listen to your customers or clients, they'll tell you what they need. And then our job as salesmen is to fulfill those needs and provide the product or service that takes care of that customer or client. And if you do that on a consistent basis, you'll be a successful salesman. You also, Hersh, have the podcast. Now, a couple of years ago, you had The Truth Tastes Funny, which is a great podcast. It's on my stand-up comedy podcast network, which is available on all Android and Apple phones. So free access to that amazing podcast. But you had also just started the Yes brand. Are both of these podcasts still going strong?
Yes, they are. Thank you. Truth Tastes Funny is about surviving and thriving in a chaotic world, and playing into my hands, the world has continued to be chaotic. So we have survival stories and tips for people who don't want to lose their sanity altogether, but want to have a little sense of humor about life. And then Yes Brand celebrates really the best in independent branding, we may call it. They're not the big corporations, Coca-Cola, Frito-Lay, Apple, Disney. I have people on the show who are entrepreneurs who've built their own businesses, and I try to get to the bottom of their trial and error and how they've succeeded and where they've learned from failing, but also with some good humor. And we're about to record our 7th season of that show, which will be a very special kind of, each interview will be in depth with real heart-centered leaders in a number of different fields. And I'm very excited to start that. I did want to mention that the book is actually not being sold on Amazon. The book is on.
What?
Yeah. Well, in keeping with the selling the truth thing, I didn't want to go down the road of feeling compelled to have a bestseller, a best-selling book on Amazon. It felt so kind of cliche among business people to have the best-selling book on Amazon in some kind of capacity. There, it was just, I wanted to go differently. I didn't want to go corporate. So I did go with Barnes and Noble, because Barnes and Noble is known for, selling books. That's what they do.
Yes,
they know that they're not buying my book from the same place that they get, their refrigerator filter. So I I wanted it to be a little bit different. And I'm also selling it on prairielight.com, which is Prairie Light out here in Iowa City, where I live now, is a very well-known indie bookseller. And they're carrying the book as well. So it's like a nice kind of hometown outlet where people who want to support, independent booksellers can go to prairielights.com and buy it there.
Well, thanks for sharing that information. I am a little surprised it's not Amazon, only because all of us, self-published book people that want to get it out there, and I have 2 or 3, it's not trying to be a bestseller. It's just to reach a broader audience. But yes, if you're bringing content that really is going to change lives and support businesses, and you're an official marketing guru, which is a truism, being in Barnes and Noble and other, localized out of Iowa book programs is going to be more true to who you are, Hersh. And I think that that's a respectable place to come from. So congratulations on that. And congrats on the podcast. I have been doing mine. I'm in my 6th year, going into the 7th, and it's been a long haul, but lots of fun and great conversations with people. And I'm sure one of the reasons you've kept both the Yes Brand and the Truth Taste Funny, 2 great podcasts people should go check out, is because you like engaging with like-minded people that you can have engaging conversations and share knowledge with. I'm sure you've learned from doing them as much as presenting the information to others, correct?
Yeah. I love, by the way, it's a great opportunity to mention that I love your show for that reason, because you are engaged in these conversations with people that are, that we've chosen a certain life, we've chosen a certain road, and you have a way of celebrating the adventures of people, and I think that's really laudable, and I really enjoy the exchange, the sense of humor, and just the interplay. It's a lot of fun.
Well, thanks. Now that we've patted each other on the back, it is great because it is interesting that as a podcaster, in both of our cases, I shouldn't speak for you. In my case, I got into podcasting because I really enjoyed and was interested in the people in the stand-up comedy industry. And the podcast gave me a chance to share everyone's story, which in many ways are similar. And yet, as you stated, everyone finds their own path to success in stand-up comedy and ends up doing different things. You became a marketing guru. Some went into TV and movies. Others went into the government. I mean, there's different aspects of what happens, but it all started with stand-up comedy as the basis of this podcast. But it is so true that we want to have good conversations with people that we have interest in their stories. And what's fascinating, Hersh, is that I did it quite selfishly because I like having my toes in show business and interacting with these people that I worked with back in the 80s and 90s. But it was interesting because recently somebody said, well, yeah, it's always funny. And yeah, there's always a lesson to learn about show business. But truly, I've created accidentally a history of stand-up comedy from 1980 on.
Yeah.
And I never looked at it that way. And when you look at it from this other perspective, it really added some interesting nuance to the podcast and what I'm doing. And in your case, you're not only engaging in great stories and having fun guests, but because of your sense of humor and your background, and because you're so good at marketing, you're really sharing solid business information in an entertaining format. And I think podcasting is amazing that not only does it allow us this opportunity, but we get to share it not with, Iowa or California or a small group of friends, but with the world.
Yeah, that's well said. I mean, I love that idea. I got into podcasting because honestly, during COVID, I felt so isolated. I was wanting to expand my horizons, not be more isolated. And as soon as I started talking to people from all over the world and started to have some listeners in different countries and all of that, interplay, I was like, oh my gosh, that's just amazing. It's so fulfilling. And I wouldn't have gone on to be doing the stuff that I'm doing now if I hadn't been podcasting and meeting all these entrepreneurs and, business people and speakers and coaches, consultants, all this whole world that I've been exposed to now.
Right. It not only are you opening your world of marketing to the rest of the planet, but you're bringing that marketing world into your life, and it's a really strong give and take. Now, for those out there that might be interested, Truth Taste Funny, the most recent episode, was Unleashing Creativity Through Play, which is really an interesting title and really a good podcast, and brings to light how important it is to have fun with what you're doing. You'll be more successful if you're enjoying your life and what you're doing. And on your Yes Brand podcast, your recent topic was navigating business change. And as a entrepreneur that started over 20 companies and all of them different, those changes, there's a core to how you start and operate and get a business going, especially from a marketing point of view. But at the same time, everything's changing around you, and you have to stay focused on the success of your business if you're going to make it work. So again, you're really bringing some good, strong information through both humor and strong marketing skills to a broad audience. So congratulations on all that. I will say that you've been a guest on many podcasts. I've seen a list of the podcasts you've been on. Quite noticeably, I was able to see that my podcast wasn't on your list. So I know that means that you have a strong connection with stand-up comedy. You're host and MC.
It is on my list.
Oh, I didn't see it on the list. You had all these other really impressive, marketing podcasts that you've been on, and not something goofy like mine.
It's in chronological order. So every time I appear on a new show, it gets put up there on that page in that kind of carousel of shows.
And I get bumped back. Yeah. Okay.
So
Hersh.
I should create, Scott, an OG section of the podcast that I featured on when I was newer to podcasting. And that way I can showcase some of the people that were gracious enough to have me during that time. So
I wasn't going for a plug. I was just kind of picking on you, but it makes sense that you're showcasing the recent ones.
Yes, but I'm happy to blast a little sunshine up your skirt if that's what you need.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, I got to tell you, that is something I would not have expected. But so to kind of, now that we've talked about all your great accomplishments, you mentioned that your focus now is on the screenwriting. Before we end this short conversation, let me and my audience know what's happening with you and your screenwriting.
Okay, so I am not focused on screenwriting. The screenwriting was so long ago that it actually slipped through the cracks of our storytelling. It was back in the 90s that I was doing screenwriting, and I started when I was living in New York. I was doing stand-up. I was working, selling computers, or who knows what. And I started writing screenplays, and I wrote a few that became movies, or that I was commissioned to write, that are total genre pictures. So it's funny to look back on it. One is called Spring Break Sorority Babes, which also, no joke, which also goes by the title Can It Be Love? And if you look on IMDb, it's there. I mean, it became like a little bit of a cult favorite. It got a good review from Roger Ebert, so I cling to that. But then I wrote one called Assault on Dome 4 that Bruce Campbell starred in, and that was like Die Hard in space, basically. He was the villain in that, and he was brilliant. He was wonderful, and that was a kick. And then I did one called The Base, which was a military action movie with Mark Dacascos, who is a very prolific martial arts actor, and he's now been on, like most recently, he's been in the John Wick movies, and he was on the show Warrior on HBO. So that's my canon of movies that I've written. But it's not new.
Well, I let me rephrase it, but I love that you got a chance to reiterate some of the movies you worked on back in the day, because I was aware of that. What I was alluding to is that you were doing some recent writing, and I thought it was for a new project.
Oh, it's going to be for my my speaking career, my public speaking as a kind of a book tour.
So you're kind of rewriting Selling the Truth, which you've been doing for a few years. You're just kind of reformatting it.
Yeah, well, so what I've done is, instead of either go with what I had before the book or in the book, I've taken it to the next level and said, okay, well, if you love the book, or if you love the show, I kind of think of it as a one-man show, then, you'll love the book and vice versa, but you get different things in each. So, but I am just writing that. So that's the thing that's my creative project right now that I'm doing.
Okay, well, that explains a little bit better, Hersh, and I think it is obvious that you've taken your history and your experience as a screenwriter, and you're putting it to work in 2025 as part of your webinar/seminar program. And with the new book out, Selling the Truth, you're trying to kind of update and rework your marketing webinar or seminar. I'm not sure. They probably do both.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're getting a chance to kind of refresh everything, and sounds like you're even kind of refreshing and adding a little more humor to it.
Yeah. I think what happens, Scott, is that I've gotten comfortable enough with my business kind of public speaking for a business audience or doing, seminars, that kind of thing. And now I'm ready to bring more of that comedy back, because it just kind of comes up, but I didn't want to make light of what I was doing or have it not be taken seriously. So now I feel like I'm just comfortable enough in my skin as a business speaker that I can incorporate some of the more fun, silliness, a little bit more silliness.
Well, and I think it's really impressive that you're taking your experience as a comic and as a screenwriter, and here, decades later, you're making it work for you in a way to, additionally engage with an audience and sharing all the marketing skills that you have available, not only through your seminars, but through your book. And I think that constantly reforming yourself, remaking yourself, and getting more comfortable, being more human and humorous, bring out the humorist in you, will only make you that much a hotter product to the business world as a marketing guru. So I think you're really taking all these experiences, including podcasting, and bringing it together to make yourself that much a more valuable product. I think that's impressive. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Scott. Really, I appreciate that. No, there's my dog barking. He agrees. I guess he agrees.
He definitely does. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank Hersh for coming back on the podcast. I hopefully you've picked up some great ways to learn more about Hersh. You can listen to his podcast, The Yes Brand. You can listen to his podcast, The Truth Taste Funny. If you get a chance and you're around a Barnes & Noble, look for his book, Selling the Truth. And if you're a business owner and you're trying to help your staff engage in a better way and be stronger in the marketing world, keep an eye out or hire Hersh seminar of Selling the Truth. Is it Sell the Truth or Selling the Truth?
Either way, I would say if they go to yesbrandbuilders.com, that's the consulting firm.
Oh, that's the
Yes
best way to do it.
Builders.
Okay,
Yep.
yesbrandbuilders.com.
And everything is there. Yeah, everything's there. All the good stuff is there.
All right, let's cut the crap and go straight to it.
Yes Brand Builders.
The yesbrandbuilders.com. I think I finally got it. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, it took me a while. I'm a little slow. All right. Well, Hersh, I really appreciate you came back on the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, you know how to reach him, learn more about his marketing skills, and see some of his humor at work. Hersh, congratulations on all your success and from being the 2025 Renaissance Man.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks so much. And you keep doing this great stuff, man.
Well, thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed that interview as much as I did. We'll be back next week with some great stand-up comedy. We appreciate you listening. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Stand Up Comedy, your host and MC. For information on the show, merchandise, and our sponsors, or to send comments to Scott, visit our website at www.standupyourhostandmc.com. Look for more episodes soon and enjoy the world of stand-up comedy. Visit a comedy showroom near you.